Good afternoon, and welcome to all of our participants. My name is David Gallo, and I'm the head of the AIFC Academy of Law. And we are broadcasting today from Nur Sultan, Kazakhstan, which is where myself and my colleagues are located, as well as from London, UK, where our distinguished speaker from BARBRI is with us to manage this open day event. Thanks so much for your participation. This overview will go on for probably about 1 hour. Chris Jorgensen, who I will introduce momentarily, will take you through an overview of the US Bar Preparation Exam programs that BARBRI is offering through the AIFC Academy of Law, as well as the QLTS and SQE preparation courses to become a solicitor under the laws of England and Wales. But before we get started, I'd like to just add a couple of personal comments about the association between BARBRI and the AIFC Academy of Law. I'm a US qualified lawyer in the state of Ohio, and it's fair to say that a majority of lawyers in the US and who are practicing around the world with US qualifications are very familiar with BARBRI because they have taken the BARBRI bar exam preparation courses. And in fact, in the UK, there are many people who have successfully completed the BARBRI preparation course for the QLTS exam, which has been available to foreign lawyers to take an examination and an assessment scheme. And when they successfully complete that, they are qualified solicitors under the law of England and Wales. So the AIFC Academy is privileged and thrilled to have affiliated with BARBRI. We have entered into an exclusive arrangement at the AIFC whereby students and lawyers can sign up through for the BARBRI programs through the AIFC platform. And we would make available BARBRI's products and services through primarily a home study online platform. And Chris will talk in more detail about that. So if you're a student or a lawyer in Kazakhstan or in the other Central Asian countries, as well as Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, well, we're very pleased to be able to offer this program to you. Just a short note on the Academy of Law. We are dedicated at the Academy to preparing lawyers for international commercial law environment. Now, this is a great time to be a law student and to be a lawyer because this profession is growing with global economic development, with an increase in cross-border trade. Well, being a lawyer is a lot more complicated and sophisticated than it used to be. So there's a premium on developing those competencies that will adequately prepare you to operate effectively in that environment. Earning additional international professional qualifications through BARBRI and the AIFC Academy really will be extraordinarily useful in terms of building your competencies, building your own personal profiles, and ideally giving you a competitive advantage vis-a-vis others who have not had that same learning and development opportunity. So we're very pleased to roll out this program and make it available to you. Without further ado, let me introduce my friend and colleague, Chris Jorgensen. Chris is the Director of Institutional Partnerships at BARBRI. He's a qualified attorney in both the US and as a solicitor in England and Wales. So Chris is really the model of what we consider to be the lawyer of the future, and that future is right now. Chris is a BARBRI graduate. Before moving into education technology with BARBRI, Chris was a legal practitioner. He was a lawyer in the area of civil litigation in the United States for over 10 years. And as the Director of Institutional Partnerships, Chris works with university stakeholders, universities and other stakeholders like the AIFC Academy across the globe. He also teaches bar exam skills workshops to BARBRI's international students. And with that, it's my distinct honor and privilege to introduce Chris Jorgensen from BARBRI. Chris.
Thank you, David. It's good to see you again, and welcome everyone. It's a great turnout. I'm really pleased to have you all on the workshop today. And as David mentioned, we should probably be here about an hour, and we'll be talking about all things dual qualification. I just want to kind of echo what David said with respect to the Astana International Finance Center. What a wonderful institution, and big things are coming that way. It makes it all the more exciting that you as practitioners have that available to you, and all of the international business that will be coming is already set up as a result of that. So I think that that's kind of a nice tie-in to what we're talking about today. I've got a PowerPoint slide deck that I'd like to speak from, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to get that up so everyone can see it, and then we'll kick off. We will have some time for questions at the end of the presentation, and we've got a system in place so that we can make sure that everyone has their questions answered. But let me just make sure. Good. David, can I just get the thumbs up? Can you see my screen? I'll go on seeing the screen, David.
Yeah. Yes, Chris. I see the screen. It looks perfect. And
okay.
We hear you and we see you well, so please proceed.
Thanks. Great. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're here to talk today about dual qualification and the way that that will empower you to really stand out from the crowd, from your peers. Now, when we start this conversation, the place that I like to begin is why on earth would a practitioner want to pursue a foreign qualification? And I'm sure that each and every one of you has your own reasons why you're on the call today. But at BARBRI, these are some of the main reasons that we tend to see. People are looking to distinguish themselves. Perhaps they want to strengthen their CV. They're looking to develop professionally. They want to have more of a global relevance where they can work in more of an international context, deal with cross-border transactions, and ultimately improve their employability. Whether they're working in-house in a company or they work in a firm, having that understanding of a second jurisdiction can really benefit and pad out your relevance on the international legal market. And it makes you a better lawyer too. I can say this from personal experience, having the understanding of the ways that more than one jurisdiction approaches justice, the way it approaches the making and the enforcement of law, and the way that it models and really affects business, just gives you more opportunity to service your clients that you already have and the ones that are coming down the pike. So today we'll be talking about two areas, two programs. One is the extended US Bar Prep program, and that's for helping you prepare for qualifying in California or New York, the states of California and New York in the United States. And then the other program will be the Qualified Lawyer Transfer Scheme. And this is for qualification as a solicitor in England and Wales. So we'll start with US Bar Prep. And the place that begins is talking about eligibility. Now I need to back up a moment because in the United States, every state is its own legal jurisdiction. And what that means is that most of the practice of law is done on the state level in the United States. It also means that in order to practice law in each of those states, you need to be qualified in that particular state. Now, most of the state jurisdictions require that you have studied law in the United States in order to be eligible to pass their bar exam and become a member. But there's two states in particular that take a different approach, and those are New York and California. And that's beneficial to you because those are the two biggest jurisdictions in the United States. It's the place in the United States where we tend to see the most international practice. It's the place where we tend to see the most US law applied internationally. Now, between New York and California, the routes into practice or the basis for eligibility are very different. For California, you're eligible to take their bar exam if you are a qualified lawyer in your home jurisdiction. Bear with me one moment. Excuse me. So what I mean is that if you are qualified as an advocate in Kazakhstan, or if you're a lawyer in Ukraine or Belarus, you would be eligible to sit and pass the California bar exam so long as you have a valid and current practicing certificate. That is, so long as you're regulated for the practice of law in your home jurisdiction. It doesn't matter if you're from civil or common law jurisdiction, so long as you're qualified, you are eligible for California. New York takes a different approach. They require that you have a 3 or 4 year full-time common law degree. In other words, you have to have studied law from a common law jurisdiction. Now, for both New York and California, if you lack either of these bases for eligibility, you can become eligible by sitting and completing a US LLM degree. And then for New York, that has to be physically located in the United States, whereas California will allow you to complete an online LLM for a basis in eligibility. But these are the ways that you be eligible for either New York or California. And when I talk about the bar exams, I'm talking about a 2-day, 6-hour each exam where you're traveling to either New York or California to take the exam. Now, day one is your written exam. And this is made up of writing short answer essays where you're answering essay questions in basically 14 different areas of law. You'd be tested from either 5 or 6 of those areas, and you won't know which you're going to be tested on. So you'll need to be prepared for all of those areas of law. You'll also be completing something called a performance test. And this is where you're given a client file. It's a made-up file, but it's as if you're working in a law firm. And there will be some memorandum that directs what you're meant to do. You'll be drafting a letter to opposing counsel or a memorandum for one of the lawyers in your firm explaining a certain area of law as it applies to this client. Or maybe it's a motion to be presenting to the court in a law in a lawsuit that you're representing a client in. Whatever it is, there will be a memorandum telling you what you're meant to perform, and it's ultimately a written attorney work product. Now, also in the file will be made up law. That'll be case law, it'll be codified legislative law, or maybe secondary resources. But the point is that you're meant to pull out rules of law from those legal authority that you'll be applying in the memorandum. Now, you'll also have various factual documents in the file. This could be interview notes with your client, or correspondence, letters between you and opposing counsel. It could be deposition transcripts. Whatever it is, you're meant to read through those and pull out the relevant facts. So in the performance test, you're looking at the law and you're pulling out relevant rules of law. You're looking in the file side and you're pulling out relevant facts, and you're pairing those together to draft some sort of an attorney work product. Now in New York, you're doing 2 performance tests and 5 essay answers on the day. In California, you're doing 1 performance test and 6 essay answers on the day. That's day 1. Day 2, which is also 6 hours, is 200 multiple choice questions where you're tested on 8 specific areas of law. Things like evidence, real property, civil procedure, contracts, constitutional law, criminal and civil litigation, criminal procedure. All of this you're tested on in multiple choice fashion, 100 questions in the morning and 100 questions in the afternoon. Now that amounts to about 1 minute, 42 seconds per question. And those 2 days are the bar exam proper. This is the main exam that you need to pass in order to become qualified in either New York or California. But in addition to that exam, you'll also have to take an ethics exam, that's the MPRE, that's the one on the bottom. And that stands for the Model Professional Rules Exam. It's also a multiple choice question exam where you're tested on 60 questions over the course of 3 hours. And this you also do in the United States, but it doesn't happen at the same time as the bar exam. Most people that are traveling from abroad will take them at about the same time. So they'll come over, they'll take their bar exam, they'll stay in the United States for about 10 days, and then they'll complete the MPRE afterwards. Those are your 2 main exams for qualification. Now in New York, you'll also have an online state-specific exam that's followed from a online specific course where you're doing New York law in a course. And after you complete that online course, which is about 30 hours, then you take the online exam. Now, the good news about that is it's an open book exam. So you'll have all of the answers in front of you. And as a result, this is not a difficult exam to pass. But it's New York's way of confirming that you're being tested on New York specific law. California applies California state specific law into its 2-day bar exam. But then in addition to that, you'll have more of a common law subject matter that applies to all of the United States that you see in the 2-day bar exam proper. So steps to qualification in California: be qualified in your home jurisdiction, confirm that you're eligible with California to sit their exam, complete a 6 or 10 month preparation course preparing for the exam, sit and pass the bar exam and the ethics exam, and then take an oath to complete your bar association membership. Once you do that, you're qualified. For New York, there's a few more steps. Complete a 3 or 4 year common law LLB or law degree. Confirm that you're eligible to sit the exam with New York. Take a 6 or 10 month program to prepare. Sit and pass the bar exam and the MPRE. Additionally, you'll need to complete 50 hours of supervised pro bono work. Now, you can do this anywhere in the world. You can do it in Kazakhstan or otherwise, so long as you have a practitioner in your jurisdiction who will supervise you doing the pro bono work. Now, if you're a new law graduate, if you've completed your LLB more recently than 2016, then you would also have to demonstrate a skills-based competency. There's a new requirement for recent law grads that you have understanding in the skills of practicing law. Things like legal writing, legal research, advocacy, appellate work, this kind of thing. And as somebody who studies outside of the United States, the way that you confirm your skills-based competency is by completing 1 year of an apprenticeship in a law firm, or by having 1 year of practice already under your belt. But again, I stress that this is only a requirement for recent law grads. Now, once you've completed all of these requirements, you take an oath in front of a New York judge, and you are then a New York qualified lawyer. Now, the key here is that on successful completion of all of these admission requirements, you're qualified. There's no training contract. There's no period of apprenticeship. Once you pass all of the exams, you're up and running as a US qualified lawyer. So let's talk a little bit about the method of preparing. Now, we have 3 course options for foreign trade candidates. We have our traditional bar review, which is an 8 or 10 week program. And this is a deep dive, heavy, intense review. It amounts to about 8 to 10 hours of study each day over 8 to 10 weeks. And honestly, this is meant really exclusively for people who have just finished studying in the United States. If you've completed a Juris Doctor degree, if you've studied 3 years of law in the United States, then this is the bar prep program for you. You review in a very intense fashion what you've already learned over 3 years to prepare yourself, to refresh yourself for the bar exam. But the reality is this is not what somebody that is coming from a foreign jurisdiction needs to prepare. You need more time with the material, and we understand that. So we've offered also a 6-month or a 10-month extended program. On a 6-month program, you're looking to study between 20 to 30 hours each week over the 6 months. And on a 10-month program, you're looking to study 10 to 15 hours each week over the 10 months. Both of these, well, all 3 of them are offered 100% online, so you can do them from anywhere in the world. And again, for our international students, we strongly recommend doing the 6 or the 10-month program. 8 weeks is just not sufficient to get ready for a US bar exam without a prior understanding of US law. So the flow of things looks like this. Well, let me back up. The bar exam in either New York or California is offered twice a year. Without a COVID pandemic running, they're always offered in February and July of each year. So moving forward, you can think I can either take my bar exam in February or in July. And BARBRI has prepared programs both in 6 and 10-month lengths that end just before both of those February or July bar exams. So you can start studying in February to prepare for a July bar exam. The February program is a 6-month online program that leads into the July bar exam. We also have an April intake, and this is a 10-month program that will prepare students for the following year's February bar exam. So this past month, we had students enroll on a 10-month program, and they're preparing for the February 2021 bar exam. Now, the next intakes in the calendar year that BARBRI has is in September. And we have both a 6-month and a 10-month intake, or a 6 or 10-month program that starts in September. And what I mean by that is students will elect to take a 6-month program starting in September that will lead them into the July bar exam of the February bar exam of that next year. So students that will start in this September will then be studying for 6 months to prepare for the February 2021 bar exam. And then they can also elect to do a 10-month program starting in September that will prepare them for the July 2021 bar exam. In terms of commitment, as I mentioned, on a 6-month program, you're studying 20 to 30 hours a week. On a 10-month program, you're studying 10 to 15 hours a week, studying from home, and your investment starts from $5,995 US. Whether you're doing a 6 or a 10-month program, an online program will cost you basically $6,000 US. So it's a substantial investment. But one of the nice things about the program is that you do have a free review. You can take the program, and if you don't pass the exam, you can take it a second time from beginning to end at no additional cost. And we also do offer some flexible payment plans so that you can make those payments over time. So the program is offered entirely online. We have developed our own learner management system, which is called Isaac. It's an intuitive program, and it includes things like pre-recorded lectures, where you'll be learning the subject matter that you'll be tested on. You'll also be learning skills that you'll be needing to demonstrate on the bar exam. And we'll have interactive workshops that will prepare you and help you learn how to write, let's say, essay questions for a US audience, methods of learning the law while also developing skills at the same time. And these are all entirely on demand, so you can study at your own pace at the time that's convenient for your schedule. We also include personal mentorship for our international students. Every student on the 6 or 10-month program is assigned an individual mentor who is a US qualified lawyer, who has a background in learning science, who's been teaching in a law school in the US in the past, and is an expert in the bar exam. And they work with the 6 or 10 month students on an individual basis, working remotely, whether it's on Skype or Zoom or WhatsApp or email exchanges. They'll be in touch with you at the very least every 2 weeks. And they work with you to work through the curriculum, helping to identify how you're doing, how to find the resources that you need online, and keep in touch with you to make sure that you're moving through the curriculum at a good pace. We start all of the international programs off in a Foundations in U.S. Law module. And this is really important for the international students because we understand that you're coming to this new jurisdiction without that foundational understanding of the U.S. legal system and how these subjects that you're going to be tested on fit into that system. So all of the programs begin with giving you a high-level understanding of the U.S. legal system and how those subjects you're tested on fit into it. You'll start to develop critical skills and techniques that you'll be tested on the exam, and they give you that foundational reference of how everything fits together. It also gives you an opportunity to assess at the very beginning what you need to focus additional attention on, because it'll likely be that some of the subjects that you're tested on, there will be subject matter that you're already familiar with, whether it's contracts or criminal law or torts. There will be similarities to your home jurisdiction, and you'll know that. You'll understand that from the beginning. It'll give you the leg up to identify what you don't know, and it'll help you identify what you do know so that you can make a reasoned plan for moving forward over the 6 or 10 months. Now, I mentioned that our learner management system, ISAC, is sort of the central hub. This is where students go to get all of their assignments. You will be given the curriculum, the 6 or 10 month curriculum, all at once so that you can move through it at your own pace. It'll give you the opportunity to move ahead if need be, if you know you'll have a big deal coming down at work and you'll need to get ahead of the curriculum so that you can slow down for a couple weeks and focus more on work. You'll have that ability. You'll have all of your practice questions and practice assignments in one place on the personal study plan. And this is where you'll log on to every day. The curriculum will be assigned to you on a daily basis, but you'll be able to look at it in a weekly context as well, again, so that you can make reasoned planning of the rest of your life to effectively get through the curriculum in a way that works best for you, the other responsibilities that you have. One of the most important features of the learner management system is the My Progress feature. Every assignment on the curriculum you'll be tracking your performance. You'll see how you score in every assignment, every subject matter, and every subject matter is broken down by subtopics as well. You'll get a percentile ranking relative to everyone else in the world who's studying on these same programs to see how you're scoring. And it'll give you more detailed understanding of the subtopics. So let's say in constitutional law, you're scoring very well in individual rights, but when it comes to executive powers, you're not scoring well. That gives you the opportunity to make adjustments in real time before it's too late. It tells you, I need to spend more time in executive power questions, but I have a pretty strong understanding of individual rights, so I know I'm good there. And importantly, your mentor has the same information available. So he or she will be able to track your performance as well. And so the two of you can work collectively to identify where you need to focus in real time. You'll also be given simulated examinations, one of which will happen midway through the curriculum, and that'll give you the chance to test how well you're doing. And it'll also give you the experience of what it's like sitting these exams before you go. You'll have a final 2-day full mock exam at the end of the curriculum that gives you, again, that experiential understanding of what it's like to be tested rigorously for 6 hours over 2 days, so that when you do travel to California or New York, you have that understanding. You've been through the process to some degree already, and that gives you some comfort and some confidence when you actually go to sit the exam itself. It's also an incredibly good indicator of how you're going to do on the exam. Not even relative to how you score on the simulated exams, but also your simple willingness to sit and do the mock exams is very indicative of your potential performance on the exam. So all of this is very deliberate, and it's designed to prepare you to perform well on the exam. It all builds upon itself so that when it comes to either February or July, when your bar exam comes to date, you'll be in your best test-taking place. Now, one of the other great things about the personal study plan is that it's intuitive. It tracks your performance along the way. It uses algorithms to see how you're scoring in certain assignments. And based upon your scoring, certain assignments may drop out. Because Isaac, the personal study plan, doesn't want to waste your time. So if you're scoring well in contracts, you may then have some contract assignments drop out, because we would rather you focus your attention in other areas of law that maybe you need to spend more time. And Isaac makes those decisions for you so that you're taking and using your time most wisely. So the whole curriculum is organic, and it's changing along the way based on your performance. So why does all of this matter? Why does BARBRI work? It works because we give you structure. You're assigned a curriculum. We tell you what to do every day, every week, for either 6 or 10 months. Based upon your performance, some of what you need to do may change. And so it's an evolving, and it's an intuitive, it's an intelligent structure. We also give you accountability. You have a live mentor who's working with you in real time, who's seeing your performance. You also are able to see your performance in every area of law, every step of the way. And that makes you accountable for your understanding and for your learning. We also give you support. You have the support of books. We'll be sending you a big box of books in the form of outlines that are a really detailed explanation of all the areas of law. You'll have lecture handouts that will support you learning as you're going through your pre-recorded lectures. You'll have thousands and thousands of practice questions and explanatory answers, which give you a detailed understanding of why you got an answer right or wrong, and that helps you learn the law in the context of fact patterns, which is how you're tested on the bar exam, and of course, how you practice law as a practitioner. Think about it. We have a client come into our office and they have a problem. They have a situation that they need help with. That's a fact pattern. And we take the facts that are important to our analysis, and then we pull out a rule of law and apply it to that situation. It's the same on the bar exam. So the structure and the accountability and the support that BARBRI gives you through our curriculum and our learning methodology translates into success on the bar exam, but it also translates into success in practice. And that's why for over 50 years, we've been so successful preparing people for US bar exams. And the numbers really bear that out. Now, this is with respect to our international students. In the United States, we prepare about 28,000 US law students every year to take a bar exam. In the international scope, we prepare a couple thousand every year. And of those international students, those who complete at least 80% of our 6 or 10 month program are passing the bar exam about 76% of the time. And that's relative to, in California, international students across the board that don't study with BARBRI, they're passing it about 45% of the time. I'm sorry if you've just come in, if you can mute your mic, that would be great. And then in New York, For the international students who do not study with BARBRI, they're under 50% as well. So you can see relative to international students that study with another provider, we're scoring much higher. And we're proud of that. And it's been consistent over the last 8 intakes that this is the case. So I want to shift gears a little bit. That's the US Bar Prep program. I'll field some questions later because I'm sure we'll have some. And I want to talk a little bit now about qualifying as a solicitor in England and Wales. And this is the QLTS program. Now, the legal system in England and Wales is relatively open. It doesn't require you to be living in the UK in order to be on the roll of solicitors, and it doesn't require you to be a citizen or a resident of the UK in order to do so. But what is required is that you be a qualified lawyer from a recognized jurisdiction. And the Solicitors Regulation Authority is the governing body of the practice of law in England and Wales. And they have a list of about 160 jurisdictions throughout the world that they've deemed recognized jurisdictions. Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, many Central Asian Central Asian jurisdictions are within those recognized lists. And if you are a qualified lawyer from one of these recognized jurisdictions, you can become a qualified solicitor by taking the QLTS assessments. And what the assessments amounts to are a 2-stage assessment. The first is called the MCT, which is the multiple choice test. And this is 180 questions that you take in one day, divided over 2 sessions, just about 3 hours in the morning and just about 3 hours in the afternoon. It's a computer-based assessment that you take at test centers around the world. They're offered twice a year in January and July. And once you pass the MCT, then you're eligible to prepare for and take the second assessment. This is the QLTS Objective Structured Clinical Examination, or the OSCE for short. This is a different kettle of fish. It's a skills-based and procedural law examination. And it's conducted over a 2-week period where you're tested 3 days in 1 week and 3 days a second week in London, and only in London. So what I mean is that you'll be tested really in 18 short assessments over 6 days that are held over a 2-week period. And the assessment is offered in May and November every year. And the assessment is only offered in London. So people can take the MCT throughout the world. And once they pass the MCT, then they prepare for OSCE anywhere in the world, but then they travel to London to actually go through the assessments. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. When you're taking the MCT, the first assessment, this is your black letter law, your doctrinal law. And you're tested in areas like the concept of jurisprudence in England and Wales, constitutional law, judicial review, things like professional conduct, financial services, contract law, property law, human rights. It amounts to 11 different subjects. And in both the MCT and the OSCE, you're tested to the level of what level of understanding a day one solicitor would have. So if a solicitor in England and Wales went through the traditional process, they studied in England, they went through what's called the LPC, they did a 2-year training contract at a law firm in the UK, and then after completing that whole process, their first day of practice as a qualified solicitor, that level of understanding is the same level of understanding that you're expected to have. So you don't need to know everything. You're expected to make mistakes, but you would be held to that standard. And these are the outcomes for the first course, the MCT. And then for the OSCE, the skills-based assessment, these are the areas of skill that you'll be tested on. So it really breaks down into 6 skills in my mind. You'll be tested on client interviewing, that's one skill, and then your ability to complete an attendance note. And this is basically a structured note summary of what you weaned from your client interview. Those are 2 skills. You'll also be tested in your ability to present an oral presentation or to advocate in an oral fashion to a tribunal, to a client perhaps, and then legal drafting, legal research, and legal writing. Now, all 6 of these different skills will be tested in 3 different categories of law. You'll be tested in business law, so things like companies, corporations, partnerships. You'll be tested in a second category of civil and criminal litigation, and then you'll be tested in a third category that group together property law and probate. And so each 6 of these skills are tested 3 times, which amounts to those 18 short assessments that you're tested on that I mentioned earlier. Once you pass both assessments, you're a qualified solicitor in England and Wales. You have all of the rights that a solicitor in England and Wales would have that came through the traditional routes. Now, the QLTS prep program is designed on the same learning management system as the US BAR program I mentioned earlier. All of the same concepts that make the US program so effective are applied to the QLTS program. You're given a mentor that you work with one-on-one. You have an intuitive learning management system where you get your curriculum. You're given a series of books that you use as a revision tool, that you use as lecture handouts that helps you learn the black letter law. You have pre-recorded lectures that you'll be tested on demand whenever you want them, and can see them as many times as you want. And you'll be tested in multiple choice questions, thousands of questions to help you learn the black letter law. Now, it's important to note that every question has a fully explained explanatory answer. And this is very important because not only does it tell you which answer is correct, but it tells you why each answer choice is incorrect or correct. And this is a very important part of the revision and learning process because you need to take the time to look at the fact pattern and to see why each of these answer choices falls the way it does. You need to apply the rule of law to the facts because that's how you learn the law for the exams. And that's what the program gives you the opportunity to do. Now, in terms of details, the MCT is offered twice a year, January and July. The next exam is July 8th, 2020, but the next one that you would begin preparing for as somebody listening to this presentation would be January 2021. Now, we have 3- and 6-month programs to prepare you for that. Again, a 3-month program is the fast track. You're looking at 30 hours each week. The 6-month program, more of the part-time, you're looking at 10 to 15 hours a week. The study is online with your mentor, and in terms of fees, you're looking at £1,850 sterling for the MCT prep program, and you can pay that through flexible payment plans. Again, it's a substantial investment that does include a free review should you need it. Our methodology is one where you acquire the learning from us, and then you begin to apply it through simulation, through practice question, and then you assess your performance by looking to see how well you performed in your application of the learning that you apply. And this is for US Bar Prep as well as QLTS. This is the adaptive learning approach that we apply. It's the methodology that works so well for us. On OSCE, we've broken down the learning into 4 phases. The first is you'll be given master classes where you're getting an initial introduction of the best practice. This is where we've pulled in practitioners that are experts in their field, where we've pulled in lecturers and professors from UK law schools to give you initial guidance on the best practice for each of those skills in each of those areas of law. And then we demonstrate for you, again, that best practice, and we're highlighting on the screen when the skill is being incorporated or being demonstrated. So you can see the example kind of in real time as to how it applies in an actual setting. And then you're given the opportunity to practice whatever skill it is. You'll have a practice assignment for every skill in every area of law, and you'll be getting feedback. And what I mean by that is after your self-practices, where you're working with your tutor online, so you'll be doing, let's say, oral advocacy, and you'll be presenting an argument to your tutor who's with you on Skype or Zoom or whatever, and they'll be serving as the judge, for instance, in my example. And once you finish your advocacy, they'll give you immediate feedback. They'll highlight what you did well, what you didn't do well. They'll be looking to see if you're demonstrating the skill accurately, and they'll be looking to see if you're applying the procedural law that you'll be tested on effectively and comprehensively. And you get that feedback in real time so that you can begin to prepare and study and revise in the areas that you need to. And then you get to apply it later as well. And at the end of the OSCE curriculum, you'll have full mock assessments. Again, so you have that experiential understanding of what it's like to sit the OSCE exam before you actually have to do it for all the marbles, so to speak. Now, the OSCE exam is offered in May and November every year. The May exam this year has been postponed to July. And then the next sitting will be November. We had students that just actually in July will be starting to study for November. It's a 12-week program, but as I mentioned, you have to pass MCT before you are eligible for OSCE. It's again an online program where you're working home with your tutor on an online platform. And in terms of fees, assuming that you've studied MCT with us, the fee is £1,950. If you work with another provider to prepare for MCT and then come to work with us for OSCE, then the fee is a little bit higher, £2,400 sterling. So those are the main details that I wanted to pass on about the QLTS. But the most important thing about QLTS is that it is not, it's going away. The SRA has decided to discontinue the QLTS program. So it will continue to run through 2021. But after 2021, there will no longer be the opportunity to pass the OSCE and qualify as a solicitor in England and Wales. The way forward from that point will be to take something called the Solicitor's Qualifying Exam. And this will be a more difficult and longer version of the QLTS that is still in the process of being created by the SRA. Now, BARBRI is preparing a prep course for it, and we will be offering that from January 2021 onward. But what the guidance that we've gotten from the SRA is that the SQE, the new exam, is going to be more expensive, it's going to be more difficult and longer, and there will also be a work experience requirement to become qualified through the SQE. Currently, foreign trained lawyers that pass the QLTS have no obligation to have work experience. You could become a Kazakhstan advocate the first day that you have become that advocate. You could take the QLTS and pass it and be solicitor. You wouldn't have to have any post-qualifying work experience. It looks as though that's going to be different for the SQE. So the takeaway from this is that anyone who's really considering qualifying as a solicitor in England and Wales, the time to do it is now. Because while this is still an expensive process, it's going to become more expensive later, and there will be more hoops to jump through the SQE. And again, our numbers really bear out that the methodology that we apply works. 80% of our students are passing the first time compared to the average of 55% overall. So we're really happy with the approach that we take and the way that it effectively prepares people to pass both the US bar and the QLTS. Next steps, because this is really the bulk of what I wanted to talk about today, but I understand that this is a long process and there are a lot of questions, and that generally we see people take 3 to 6 months in deciding whether or not this is something that is right for their career and how to do it. So whether you're looking at US qualification or becoming a solicitor, the first step that you want to do is check eligibility. These are processes that are, depending on the jurisdiction, are little or no cost. They can be done remotely, and it's the first step that you'll need to take for either. We can provide you guidance for how to do that. The AIFC has that same guidance. They know how to advise you, so you can get in touch with them to take that first step. Whether or not you want to ultimately go through with the qualification, it's a nice first step to take. I also recommend that you download the QLTS or Bar Review Digests. And again, AIFC, David and his team have digital copies of these that they can hand to you. You can also get them from our website, which is located on the bottom. And that contains everything that we've talked about today and additional detail. More detail about the subjects and the layout of the exams that you'll be tested on. More detail about our methodology and the timelines that you need to follow to get ready for those exams. So I highly recommend that you keep one of these digests, on your laptop or somewhere to refer to it as you move through this process of considering whether foreign qualification is right for you. And I always recommend that you attend a one-to-one consult. Again, David and his team are very prepared for this. They've been working with us for a long time. They know the program, the product, and they can give you detailed advice, answering questions specific to your situation in a one-to-one fashion. And that's always available online, via telephone, or when things permit, in person. So I'm going to turn it over to all of you now, because I'm happy to answer any questions that might arise, that have arisen now. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and I think Almas would kind of be the one that's going to help facilitate if there's any questions. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this point.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chris. Dear guests, if you have any issues, please raise your hand, then I will give you an access to turn on your mic. Then you can introduce you and ask your issue. Mahdi, please. Mahdi?
Hi, I'm not sure if my video is on.
Yep, we can hear you.
Can hear you, Magdi.
All right, great. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. I have some practical questions regarding the QLTS first,
yes,
and then we'll pass to you. So my question is, once you pass OSCE and assumably in May you have assessment results, what is the next stage? How do you proceed later on?
So once you have passed OSCE, it'll take about 3 months actually to get your results. And once you're notified and confirmed that you have passed, then it's a bit of a process. You need to have a background check from your home jurisdiction completed, and then you need to submit that criminal background check to the SRA, along with a certified copy of your practice certificate. So whatever your home jurisdiction is, the regulatory body that governs your profession will issue you a practice certificate, and you'll send these documents to the SRA. You'll also have to submit a fee and a request for the SRA to do their own background check. And they will then initiate that process. And once they have reviewed all of your documents, and confirmed that you passed the background check, you submit an online application form, and they review all of that and put you on the roll of solicitors. It is, in total, it can take a few months to complete, mostly because it can take some time for the background checks to be completed. There is always, unfortunately, a fee involved with each one of these steps, and the fees vary a little bit. Your home jurisdiction will likely charge you a bit of a fee to get your practice certificates. There will be some sort of a fee for your criminal background check from your home jurisdiction. There's, I think it's about £100 for your application fee to the SRA, and about £75 for them to complete the background check. So it is an expensive process that takes a few months, but it's just an administrative process. And once they have completed all of that, then they will add you to the roll of solicitors. You also have the option of receiving something called a practicing certificate, which is the document that they issue you, which you can hang on your wall and shows that you are in active practice. Now, in England and Wales, there's 2 levels of practice. You can be deemed inactive if you wish, and it's basically just saying, I am qualified in England and Wales, but I don't actively practice law in England and Wales. And that's the status that I'm on, because I'm not in active practice in England. I can change that at any moment, but presently, it's just a message that's made to society that I'm not in active practice. Now, you can also elect to be in active practice, and then you have to have a practicing certificate that I mentioned. And I think the cost of things is a little bit more in that fashion, but that's for people that are actively engaged in the practice of law in England and Wales. And those of you that wouldn't be, you wouldn't have to take that. You can elect to be in active practice. Like.
Okay, wonderful. And my second question is regarding the New York bar. So yes. Hypothetically, if you complete and be successful with your solicitor qualification in England, Wales, is it possible then to proceed to New York bar exam?
It's a very good question. Yeah, the only way that you can be eligible for New York is by either completing that common law degree or completing an LLB in the an LLM in the United States. Once you qualify as a solicitor, you would still have to have that law school education makeup to be eligible for New York. Does that answer your question, Mahdi?
Thank you. I guess that is it.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mahdi. Rasul, please.
Yeah, thank you. Good day. Can you hear me well?
I can, yes, thank you.
Chris, thank you very much for a very informative presentation. I have two questions. First one is regarding the place, the venue for QLTS exam, whether there is any facility where we can sit for that exam in Kazakhstan. I've been
That's a good question, and I'll have to defer to Almas and Jeff on that. I believe there are, but I don't know as I speak. They're really all throughout the world. So I would imagine there is one in your capital. But we'll have to check with the local team at the AIFC to confirm that, I'm afraid.
I see, okay, thank you. And the second question, you mentioned that QLTS will be available only till 2021. So does it mean that until that time, if we wish to get this solicitor qualification, does that mean that we should pass both exams on QLTS, MCT and OSCE before this program ceases to exist?
It does mean that. So you need to get through the first exam, the MCT, by July 2021. And then assuming you have done the first part, then you'll have into 2022 to complete OSCE, the second exam. But I say it a little bit differently. You need to get through it both by 2021 because it's a little safer that way. But you do need to complete both parts of that before the program goes away.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Chris. This is David. I just wanted to mention that for the MCT, the exam currently is offered in Russia, India, and Dubai. Those are probably the closest jurisdictions for that.
I see.
And of course, OSCE, as you say, has to be done physically in the UK.
Thank you, David. Okay. So, Russell, your first question then would be, you would have to travel outside of Kazakhstan.
Yeah,
to
got
take
it.
MCT.
Thank you. I appreciate for this information.
You're welcome. Did you have a second question or?
It was about these two exams until 2021. Yeah, so you have already answered to it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Khalil, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation as well. My name is Khalil and I'm practicing lawyer here in Kazakhstan. I have the following question. Let's imagine that I opted for California bar exam preparation or QLTS. And what if I failed an exam? And in this case, whether I have an additional or some kind of follow-up studies after the exam is failed?
You have a free review in both of those cases with BARBRI. So you could take the entire course again from beginning to end at no cost to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Khalil. Yerjan.
Hi.
Hello.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris, for the presentation. I have a practical question in terms of the recent Brexit. And I wonder whether solicitors will be eligible to practice law in the European Union after the interim period or from 2021?
It's a very good question. The question was, what will the effect of Brexit be on a
yes,
UK
on the solicitors practicing law in the European Union?
Right. So as we know, currently there is a means to do that, but it's based on European Union law. And what we're waiting to see is whether or not there will still be a provision created that will allow solicitors to continue to do that. There's not been an indication one way or the other yet. I think it's probably safe to say that that opportunity will no longer exist, but I can't say for certain. Sorry, the SRA and the Law Society has been on record expressing that they are very hopeful that there are efforts to preserve the practice in the UK, and that we insulate any potential, fall off from the business of practicing law and how that affects UK solicitors. I suspect that because this country has elected to move out of the EU, that they will not afford us the privilege of appearing in the courts of the European Union. But that's only my opinion. They may choose differently.
Understood, thank you. And can I ask another question? You said that the QLTS will be available until 2021. I understand that after that year there will be SQE, which likely will be very similar to QLTS.
That's right. Yeah, the SQE will be the route that everyone, whether you studied law in the UK, or if you're a qualified foreign lawyer, the SQE will be the route into practice in the UK. It will be a two-part exam. The first part will be a multiple choice question test, but where the QLTS MCT, the first exam, is 180 questions, the SQE first exam will be 360 questions. The SQE2 will be very similar to QLTS OSCE, but we're told it's going to be more in depth. And they've suggested that the price, I believe, would be around £6,000. So it's going to be very expensive. But in the general makeup of SQE will look very similar to QLTS, just bigger.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Dina, please, your issue. Dina, are you here? So no response, then I guess Dilfaris, please, your turn.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. My name is Dilfaris, and I would like to ask a question about like the discounts, possible discounts. When I was an LLM student, the BARBRI provided substantial discounts in 2018 for current students. And are there any referral programs for like AIFC Academy of Law students or like people referred by?
We do run various discounts at times. David, what is the discount that AIFC students have automatically?
Yeah, so we're in the process of establishing all of our guidelines, but there certainly will be special promotions, and there may be certain collaboration partners that if students are part of those organizations would be entitled to those. So more to come on that, but we certainly will do everything we possibly can to make sure that students are getting great value. And that may, in fact, it may well include from time to time some promotional discounts.
And I can tell you for the US qualification, we run for our September programs, we always do something called an early bird discount. And that's for students who enroll in July and make their payment in July, their first payment. We award a $500 discount off of that. And I'm sure that will be happening again this year. I just had a meeting on it yesterday. So if you're thinking US qualification and you're thinking to sit for the September program, it would be in your best interest to start that process in July and receive that discount.
Right. And certainly we would we'd be managing that and advertising that from our side. So stay tuned. We should probably add, Chris, you could probably comment more fully on this, that there is a 10-month US bar exam prep course that is starting right now. So if anyone as sort of a high priority matter is interested in signing up, this is the perfect time, whether it's for California or New York, where there's time to sign up for the 10-month prep course, which would be for, I guess, next July's exam at this point.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
It would be for the 10-month that started in April. It would be for February. Yeah.
My apologies.
I always have to do the math in my head a little bit.
It's always a matter of our doing the math on these things.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Chris. For the February exam, California bar exam or New York. That's right.
Correct. Almas, are there any more
Boris,
questions?
are you okay with this?
Yes, yes, thank you for the response.
Okay, thank you. Rashid, please, your turn.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for your incredible webinar introduction program. Just my question relates to SQE. You told that SQE will be introduced in 2022, and you also mentioned that there will be a requirement that before an applicant will be eligible to take the last part of exam, he will be required to have some sort of proof of his experience, of 2-year experience in relevant, what sort of experience they need to show?
Okay, so there's just a couple details that I want to clarify. SQE, the first SQE exam is going to start in November 2021. And we'll start preparing students from January 2021. It is a 2-part assessment, and there will be a work experience requirement, but it doesn't necessarily have to be before you do the second exam. It will be a requirement before you qualify as a solicitor. You have to have done some work experience. The guidance that we're getting is that things like doing paralegal work, things like doing pro bono clinics in law school will likely be considered as acceptable work experience. So I need to give you a little bit of context. In the UK, there's a requirement that people complete a training contract. And it's a very specific type of work. You have to be in a law firm, you have to have a certain number of seats, and there's not very many of them available. And so it's created kind of this bottleneck to get into the profession. And this is one of the reasons that the SQE has come about, because there were a lot of students who completed a law degree in the UK, but they could not get a training contract and thus couldn't become a solicitor. The SQE, part of the goal is to have more loosened types of qualifying work experience requirement. And so if you're doing paralegal work, if you have done work in a law firm or a law clinic, they will be allowing that to be considered as part of that qualifying work experience. The SRA has not given us exact guidelines, what is and is not, but they have given us these general ideas. And we know from the intention behind the SQE that it will be more available than the current crop of you have to be in a law firm doing a 2-year training contract. Does that answer your question?
Partly, yes. I want to clarify my first question is that, well, in any event, it will be a requirement to have experience in UK, right? So those lawyers coming from Kazakhstan will not be able to rely on their experience in Kazakhstan, right?
No, we don't. Again, it's not definitive, but it's not suggested that the work experience will have to be in the UK.
Okay. Just another question I have. What is the deadline to take SQE exam in order to come within the old regime? And I know some students will have to take MCQ beforehand, but there are some students who completed education in UK and they got exemption from MCQ. They got the exemption on hand and they can proceed straight away to the second part of exam. So for those students, if you know, what is the deadline for them to take this exam, SQE?
I just want to clarify, it's OSCE, because the SQE is the new exam that's coming. The second phase of the QLTS is OSCE, and the deadline for somebody that has exempt from MCT, and I'll talk about how that happens in a second, the deadline for that is you need to complete OSCE, the second part of QLTS, by the end of 2021. So you would then have the opportunity of doing OSCE in either May 2021 or November 2021. And if it were me, I would want to take my first attempt in May, because if I didn't have a good day and didn't pass, then I would have that second shot to do it before it goes away. Now, the way that somebody becomes exempt from doing MCT is by completing what's called the LPC in the UK. Some of you have studied law in the UK, and if you've done your LLB and then gone on to do your LPC, which is the legal practice course, it's a one-year program. If you've done that, then you're exempt from the first part of QLTS. You have to apply for an exemption. That means contact the SRA and ask them to confirm you're exempt. So it's just not automatic that you move on to OSCE. You ask for an exemption. They grant you that exemption, and then you complete OSCE, the second part of the QLTS, in either May or November 2021. I guess you could do it in November 2020 as well, because we have a program starting in July that will prepare students for the 2020 OSCE. Did I answer the other part of your question?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much, Chris, for extensive clarification. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Any other issues?
Yes, Chris and Almas, I just wanted to mention one more thing to the participants. As Chris has indicated, for the US bar exam, passing the bar exam itself is one step. It's probably, it's certainly the most challenging step and the most important in the scheme of things. But both California and New York have some other requirements. One is taking and passing the Model Professional Responsibility exam. In New York, there's a New York Day exam. So there are some other steps. They are not nearly as difficult, to overcome as the others. But in New York, there's also a requirement that to become a licensed lawyer in the state of New York, not only do you have to pass those exams, but you also have to earn 50 hours of pro bono work. And at the AIFC Academy of Law, I think it may be known already to participants, but we are running I think the region's first pro bono program, whereby lawyers provide free legal advice to those who need legal advice but don't have the financial means to pay for it. Well, we will be launching the ability for BARBRI students to participate in that pro bono program so that they can earn their 50 New York hours. We've already been in contact with the New York Board of Bar Examiners, the person who manages the pro bono requirement. So we're pretty clear on our ability to to offer this type of program, and certainly that understanding will apply equally to Kazakhstan as it does to other jurisdictions. So I just mentioned it, so stay tuned. That would be something else that we might be able to help you with to earn that New York qualification.
Yeah, great. Well, if there are no more questions, I'll just take a moment to thank you all. Those are wonderful questions, very, very appropriate and relevant. And I was so pleased to see so many people on the webinar today. You are in good hands with the AIFC and the Academy of Law there. They will answer all your questions moving forward. And I hope to hear from some of you down the road. Thank you for your time, and whatever your decisions are in terms of professional development, I wish you all the very best in your careers in life. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We really appreciate your time. And thanks to all the participants. Stay tuned. There will be much more information published online on our website in the coming days. A lot of it's already there. So we look forward to, we hope, meeting you all soon. Thank you, Chris. Bye-bye.
Thank you, David. All right. Bye-bye.